Before I start the video, I just want to say sorry for taking such a long hiatus. This video is about subject matter that does mean a lot to me, as you can see here. For those who can't tell, this is a tattoo I have going, from my elbow area down to my wrist, taking up one complete side of my forearm. I want to do more research than I typically do, and this video technically does cover two different subject matters. Also, I know you already remember Jeffrey. Here's my new friend. I call him Jared, not from Subway though. Now if that's that, let's get into the video. Have you ever been walking down the toy aisle, looking at all the board game for kids in a kid's place? Let's say Toys R Us, for example. Well, for those of us that remember it. You see a board game called the Ouija board. Rated for kids and older, which is very strange because even if you're playing it correctly, you may summon something you will never forget about for the rest of your life. Today, we're going to talk about one of those entities. His name is Zozo. Ouija board. Before we get into the subject matter of what Zozo is, we need to go over what Ouija board is, since it is known as the Ouija board demon. You might get a couple different descriptions from people. I'm going to go over 3 examples of 3 different types of descriptions you may hear. 1. Ouija board is a board game that can date as far back as 540 BC. It's a way for people to communicate with entities that cannot be seen by the naked eye, such as demons, spirits, ghosts, or even dead people. 2. Child's game that uses the ideomotor effect. The ideomotor effect is an effect that's known to subconsciously make you make movements without you knowing you're the ones that are actually making them. Now, I know a lot of people out there will shake their leg or shake their foot without even knowing about it. That is a good example of it. So in this case, you would be the one moving the planchette, not an entity, but you would not notice. 3. Satanic game that people use not knowing the repercussions that it will cause, and not knowing what they're playing with. My own description of a Ouija board, it's a bit of all 3 of those. In my opinion, a Ouija board is a spirit board that can be used to talk with things not noticeable to the naked eye. It was popularized as a family-friendly game by the Parker brothers in 1968 when they marketed it as a simple solution how to get answers, such as, can we take the car? Shall I become a model or a fashion designer? Who's Debbie's date for the prom? What college will accept me? Are flying saucers real? Should we go steady? All appearing on the flyer. Check out this commercial that I found from sometime in the 1900s.
You're moving it. No, I'm not. You're moving it. Spelling something. This is too weird. Go ahead. Ask another. Ask another.
Now, I do not believe the game itself is satanic, but I do believe it can attract entities and spirits that will and want to cause harm to people, so I can understand why people will look at it that way. But the game itself, I do not believe is the work of the devil. Does the Ouija board work? I know the biggest question a lot of y'all are having right now, well, does the board actually work? You can look up countless stories online. They go forever and ever. But I'm going to talk about my own personal encounters. I've played it a fair amount of times, and from my experience, I can say it does work. One common misconception, though, is that it's going to answer every question every time. That's not true. If it was, I would ask what the lottery numbers were every day. I've had some times where it does answer every question every time. I've had some days where it doesn't answer me at all. But I have seen it work on multiple occasions. I've seen it work in a gray area. I've seen it work really well. The experience won't be the same every time, but I do say it works. Rules of the Ouija board. With such a potentially dangerous game, it should be known that there are a list of rules. It's very strongly encouraged you do follow all these rules to the T. because breaking them will likely take you on an experience you do not want to go on. It was originally known to only have 3 rules, but as time has gone on, people have discovered more and more rules. Let's go over the original 3 plus the additional ones. Now we're going to go over the 3 original rules to follow. I'm going to tell you the rule, and then I'm going to give you the reason why. I'll be honest. The reason whys are explanations that are my assumptions on why you should follow that reason. So, 1. Never play alone. You never want to play this game alone because if you do make contact with a malicious entity, it may be a lot easier for them to go after you. You make it really easy on them to choose a target, focus on the target, figure out best way to get under your skin and to really get to you. 2. Never play in the cemetery. This rule should be pretty simple to explain. You're playing where people lie, they're going to have a strong connection in the area, they're most likely going to be very vengeful, very upset, and they will be a lot more powerful than under typical circumstances. 3. Always say goodbye. This guarantees your best chance at closing the connection and gives you the best chance of nothing lingering around afterwards. Take note, I'm saying chance. So it doesn't guarantee that you'll for sure block anything from staying out, especially if it's already came through. But if you don't say bye, you're leaving the portal open for any entity to wander and travel through then, or even at a later time. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there were 3 originals, but we have found multiple different things that can trigger the spirit board, but we have a lot more rules to go over. 4. Be serious. Make sure you're taking this serious, because the entity could think you're joking around and take that as an insult. Just because it's friendly at first, doesn't mean it can't turn malicious. Remember, a lot of these entities are once people. Everybody has something that can make them turn angry real quick, especially when you feel like your time is being wasted. 5. Come in ready to talk. Be ready. Come in ready to talk and ask questions. You don't want to have people wasting their time, and you definitely don't want the entity taking control of the conversation. Make sure you come in with questions ready, and make sure you keep control of the conversation. It's also recommended that you only have one person asking the questions. Keeps it simpler for the entity to answer. Also won't overwhelm and aggravate them. If the person asking questions does get aggravated or overwhelmed themselves, make sure you're completely in the game, in the session, start over again in order for somebody else to ask questions. 6. Watch for warning signs. Some of the entities will give you warnings when they're either about to attack, make their presence known, or do something. There's multiple example warning signs that they could give you. 2 of the biggest to watch out for are countdowns alphabetically or numerically, and the letters going back and forth between Z and O. That aligns with the topic that we'll be discussing later, Zozo. Another one we'll watch for is the figure 8 motion. That one's also associated with Zozo. We'll cover those a bit later on this video. 7. Don't take everything said to heart. Some spirits from mischievous entities may not be telling you the truth. You're breaking the rules that may lead to the entity being more malicious, and it may start lying to you even if it was telling you the truth at first, but since you don't know the true intentions, don't take everything to heart. 8. Never play at home. In the off chance something does come through and lingers, really don't want that at your house, right? 9. Write things down. It's always a good thing to do. This way it knows you're trying to retain knowledge and you are taking them serious, so it may be a positive for the entity. It may keep them nicer longer. As stated earlier, you don't want them to feel like you're joking around, not taking them seriously, things like that. 10. Have different conductors ready. Conductors are items used to attract entities other than the board. Examples: candles, scents, oils, liquids, things that make sure they know they're welcome. 11. Never damage the board. I know it's commonly said to burn the board or to break it. That is very far from the truth. I don't know who started that rumor, but it is very Dangering? It's very dangerous to disrespect the board like that. It can lead to the entity being attached wherever the board is damaged, or more likely attached to who damaged the board. 12. Sage the room after, or the entire building. This isn't really a rule, but such strong recommendation will include it as a rule. Burning sage has long been used to connect to the spiritual realm and help cleanse. For healers and other people in traditional cultures, burning sage is used to achieve a healing state or to solve or reflect upon spiritual dilemmas. Saying goodbye may not always close the session. This is an extra safety measure to make sure you can. 13. I'm really bad at numbers right now. Don't leave the planchette on the board. Leaving it on the board is like you're testing the entity. You're testing its strength. You're telling it it's not strong enough to do it even if the session's closed. Like I said earlier, you don't want to disrespect it and you don't want to test it. 14. Do not ask when you or someone else will die. That kind of knowledge is known to drive people crazy. Like I mentioned earlier, it may not tell you the truth. So it could have you watching over your back for a certain instance, like if it says a car wreck next week. Every time you get into a car the next week, you're going to be wondering, is this it? You may even avoid cars all in general, or something that may be a lie. 15. Do not ask how they died. This falls in with the respect portion of the rules. It may be a sensitive subject that really could upset the entity. It could cause the entity to lash out if it is a super sensitive subject. You wouldn't want to upset it, would you? Who is Zozo? Look, my cat's made an appearance. Hi, Peep. Say hi. The fuck are you looking at? A good sign. Now let's go over who is Zozo. Although nobody really knows who Zozo is, it's believed that he is one of the strongest demonic beings in existence. He's very commonly compared to the demon that's inside Annabelle. If you're unfamiliar, demon inside Annabelle is powerful, and a lot of people believe that it is part of Lucifer inside of her. That comparison really shows how strong Zozo is and why he is an entity or a demon that should not be played with lightly, or even at all. This next part should come without saying. Since we don't know who Zozo is, we also don't know where he came from. I've done so much research on just this one topic, trying to really find out, trying to see if I can be the first person to find out where Zozo comes from, who they are. I can't, I don't know. The oldest note that I did find though, it dates all the way back to the 1800s in the Inferno Dictionary. The author talks about a girl who was possessed by 3 demons, one of which was Zozo. According to the author, the one communicating back and forth was Zozo, so it is speculated that he was the strongest of the 3 demons. But Zozo did go mainstream once Darren Evans came out with his book called The Zozo Phenomenon. The movie was also released called I Am Zozo. I didn't read the book, but I did watch the movie a few times. The movie is based on a true story from a different survivor. And honestly, in my opinion, it's a perfect example of what can happen when you break the rules. So many rules are broken at so many parts of this movie. And just like people say, and just like it's believed, the more rules you break more often, the worse your experience gets. That's exactly what happens in this movie. And unfortunately, they also happen to contact probably the strongest demon contact through a Ouija. How to summon Zozo. Let's say you really want to test that boundary. You want to contact Zozo. You want to see if it's as bad as anybody says. Fortunately, due to the fact that nobody knows what's behind them, there is no way to purposely contact them. There are ways that you can, are more likely ways, and that's what we're going to be going over right now. 1. The Ouija board. It's very commonly associated with the Ouija board, giving them a nickname, the Ouija board demon. This is the way most people have contacted him, is by playing with it, and then the planchette will start rapidly moving between letters Z and O on repeat. It may also move itself in a figure 8 motion. It might move between Z and A, O and Z, 0 and Z. It might not be exact, but once it's rapidly shooting back and forth between those, or going in the figure 8, that's how you know you've contacted them. Also, another hint, I would say, when you try to say goodbye and it shoots itself back to no and goes back to the letters. You may start to dim the light or bust light bulbs. If any of these happen, you should prepare, because once he starts physically showing himself in our world, he will appear shortly after. 2. Calling form. Dreamer is so powerful, he can jump between worlds and dimensions just by the simple mention of his name. Just because he doesn't appear in time, doesn't mean he won't cross over later. Sucks for me, I think I've said his name like 30 or 40 times, plus all the read times I've had to do for messing up during film. I've said his name over 100 times today. Maybe that's what the fuck my cat was looking at. 3. Electronic voice phenomena, otherwise known as an EVP sensor. You can also get contact with them through an EVP. It's not really exact on how he's gonna sound. Some people say whispering, some say a deep and very bold voice. Some say just a screech, but I mean, off just a screech, I don't know. You can tell that's him. But the louder he does get, the clearer he does get, he is getting closer. He just stops talking bluntly. He's within arm's reach, and he's deciding what he's gonna do. Those are the 3 different ways that's known to contact him. Like I said, it might not work. I recommend you do not intentionally try to make connections with him. I mentioned Darren Evans a little bit earlier. Let's go a little bit into more detail about what he said. So, in March 2009, Darren came forward on the Ghost Tales, his experience dealing with Zozo. Link's gonna be down in the description to the link. His experience seems very similar to every other individual saying, to be honest, that the entity seems friendly at first, then eventually reveals its hostile nature. His story reflects on a time where he walked into the bathroom only to see his 1-year-old child about to drown. His wife had stepped out of the room for just a second, and in that time, the water of the tub turned on full blast and started to fill up the tub quickly. The next day, the daughter was hospitalized for weird internal infection. At this moment, when he knew he was fighting attacks. There's a lot more things that he talks about. I strongly recommend you go read the article. Link will be down in the description below. Now, like I said, some of the stuff does seem similar to what other people are saying, but he goes really into depth. It's a very long article. I very much recommend it. Tried reaching out to him, see if I can get an interview. I was unable to connect with him. I do want to go over a disclaimer real quick. Anytime you're playing with something on the spiritual side, whether it's Bloody Mary, a Ouija board, or really anything else, you need to make sure you're taking cautions and you're being careful with all this. I strongly recommend to use sage before and after you do everything, periodically throughout your home, throughout the just rest of time. Keep anything clean and keep away any entities, such as Zozo. Now, do I believe in Zozo? This is a hard subject to make a decision on since there's so much missing information. Who he is, where he comes from, what's the trigger, anything like that. Also, who knows if all these tales are even telling the truth? I mean, I'm not calling anybody a liar, but I haven't really seen much evidence. Um, Darren Evans, for example, he got famous off of it, wrote a book. I haven't seen him post any kind of evidence or proof. But back to the question, do I believe in Zozo? Yes. Personally, I believe he is real, and my thought behind him is he is a rejected angel that is now taking revenge by being a henchman to. And I will acknowledge this is all opinion based. I have no evidence to back up my claim. That's just my thought process and how I feel due to all the research that I have done. Take that as you will. Let me know your opinions below. Now until next time, always play right, always play it safe. Be safe out there. Have a good one. Bye.